Twice a year, the United States collectively loses its mind over 1 hour of sleep, and I am done with it. I want to talk about daylight savings time, why it exists, why most of America despises it, why Congress keeps failing to do anything about it, and why the simplest, most elegant compromise might be staring us in the face. We're going to get into the data, and we're going to get into the money. We're going to talk about the billions, yes, billions of dollars lost, the heart attacks that spike, the traffic accidents, the injuries, and we're going to arrive at a solution so straightforward that'll make you angry it hasn't been done already. So let's get going. First, where did this whole thing come from? The practice was first suggested in a whimsical essay by Benjamin Franklin in 1784. Yes, a whimsical essay. That's the origin story of the thing that is currently ruining 2 Mondays of your life every year. Thanks, Ben. The mandatory time changes were implemented nationally in the United States on March 31st, 1918, as a temporary wartime effort during World War I to save coal and oil used for heating and lighting homes and businesses. It was a wartime measure, temporary, to save candles and coal. 1918. That was over 100 years ago. We have electricity now. I looked it up. It exists almost everywhere. Repealed nationwide in 1919, some individual localities like New York City maintained the biannual time change in what Time magazine called a chaos of clocks until 1966, when the Uniform Time Act made DST consistent nationwide. A chaos of clocks. I feel like that description still applies, and we technically fixed it 60 years ago. Now, the original logic was, at minimum, understandable. Shift the clocks, capture more daylight in the evening, people use less lighting, industry. Fine, that made sense in a world lit by gas lamps and candles, but does it hold up today? A 2008 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that DST actually led to a 1% increase in residential energy consumption by consumers in Indiana, costing households in the state an extra $9 million on their electric bills and resulting in another estimated $1.7 to $5.5 million in social costs of increased pollution emissions. So, it doesn't save energy, it costs energy. The core premise, the one reason this whole thing was invented, is not only outdated, it is empirically backwards. DST makes energy consumption worse. Let that sink in. Now, let's talk about the real cost, because this is where it gets infuriating. Using 4 categories of cost: heart attacks, strokes, workplace accidents, and traffic accidents. The estimated total economic cost of daylight savings time for all the metropolitan statistical areas in the United States was approximately $672 million a year. $672 million every single year, just from the health and safety fallout of losing 1 hour of sleep. Based on previous studies, the rate of heart attack increases 5% during the first week after spring DST. The rate of stroke increases by 8% during the first 2 days. Traffic accidents are assumed to increase by 6% the day following DST. 5% more heart attacks, 8% more strokes, 6% more fatal car crashes, all because we moved a clock. Workplace injuries in U.S. laborers increased 5.7% in the days after moving the clocks forward to DST in spring, due to the sudden loss of an average of 40 minutes of sleep. And that's before we even get to the white-collar productivity drain. The Monday following the day we move the clocks ahead is often referred to as Sleepy Monday, since it's one of the most sleep-deprived days of the year. Economists have found that the springtime change can actually kick off an entire week of lower worker productivity, including an increase in cyber loafing, which is the technical term for employees browsing the internet for non-work related content instead of doing their actual jobs. There's actually a peer-reviewed academic term, cyber loafing, that exists specifically because of daylight savings time. I couldn't make that up. William Shughart, an economist at Utah State University, argues that the simple act of changing clocks costs Americans $1.7 billion in lost time and productivity while shifting, updating, and adjusting to the time changes. Now, let me add something that nobody puts into an economic study, but they absolutely should. You know what I'm talking about? The reminder emails. Every bank, every insurance company, every app, every news outlet, every single business that employs someone whose entire job apparently is to remind you that the clocks are changing. Don't forget to spring forward this Sunday, as if I have the option to forget. My phone changes automatically. Woo! My smart thermostat changes automatically. My car, the one I've had for 4 years, changed on its own. You know what the only clock in my house that needs manual adjusting is? The microwave. And I'm honestly not even sure I've ever said it correctly in the first place. But let me put an actual number on the reminder economy, because the host asked me to, and I love to suffer mathematically. By the way, I'm the host. There are approximately 160 million working adults in the United States. If every single one of them spends just 10 minutes twice a year reading reminder emails, updating a clock somewhere, figuring out if a meeting got moved, arriving late to something, that's 20 minutes per person per year. 160 million people times 20, 160 million people times 20 minutes equals 3.2 billion minutes. That's 53 million hours. At an average US wage of roughly $30 an hour, that's $1.6 billion in labor just burned on the act of clock awareness. And on the corporate side, there are 33 million businesses in the United States. Assume only a fraction of them, let's be conservative, say 10% of the medium to large ones, pay a communications person for even 30 minutes to draft, approve, and send a DST reminder. That's millions of man-hours dedicated to reminding people about a thing that their phones handle automatically. It's the bureaucratic equivalent of emailing someone to tell them that tomorrow will follow today. And yet, every November and every March, my inbox fills up. So, what does America actually want to do about this? A 2025 Gallup survey found that 54% of those polled are not in favor of daylight savings time. A significant increase from just 23% who were not in favor of it when Gallup poll last polled on the topic back in 1999. 54% unfavorable versus 23% in 1999. In 25 years, the opposition has more than doubled. America is getting angrier about this by the decade. When asked which system they prefer from three options, permanent standard time, permanent daylight savings time, or the current back and forth practice, 48% said they want the standard time year-round, while 24% said they would keep the clocks on daylight saving time. Less than 20% of the Gallup respondents said they would prefer to continue the biannual flop. So let's do the math on the opposition here. Fewer than 1 in 5 Americans actually want to keep switching clocks. That means roughly 80% of America either wants to stop or doesn't care enough about it to want to continue it. This is one of the rarest things in modern America. A topic with almost universal consensus. Republicans, Democrats, young, old, they all agree that the twice-yearly clock shuffle is a complete waste of time, literally. So why is Congress not fixing it? Since 2018, 19 states, including much of the South and a block of states in the northwestern U.S., have adopted laws calling for a move to permanent daylight saving time. The U.S. Senate passed a bill in 2022 to move to permanent daylight saving time. A similar House bill hasn't been brought to a vote. The Senate passed it unanimously in 2022. Unanimously. That never happens. A bill about funding puppies couldn't pass the Senate unanimously. And then it went to the House, sat down on the couch, and apparently never left. On April 11th, 2025, Trump posted on Truth Social, the House and Senate should push hard for more daylight at the end of the day. Very popular, and most importantly, no more changing of the clocks, a big inconvenience and, for our government, a very costly event. Even Trump agrees with this. Even Elon Musk called it annoying. When the two most maybe controversial people on the planet unite on something with but here's why it keeps getting stuck. The debate isn't really whether to stop switching. Almost everyone agrees on that. The fight is about which time to pick permanently. And that's where the whole thing grinds to a halt. The sleep scientists say permanent standard time because it aligns better with human circadian rhythms and morning sunlight. Studies have found that adopting the permanent standard time could prevent up to 5,000 suicides annually by reducing seasonal depression and potentially prevent 1,300 traffic deaths each year. But then the retail industry, the golf courses, the candy companies, the outdoor equipment stores, they love the extra evening daylight that DST provides, and they lobby hard. It's no coincidence that DST in the United States was extended into November. The candy and confectionery industry lobbied for this change to encompass Halloween. An extra hour of daylight on October 31st means more time for trick-or-treating, resulting in significantly higher candy sales. We are, in part, still adjusting our national clocks twice a year because of Halloween candy sales. I want you to sit with that. And here's the part I actually find most interesting. The compromise that most people have never heard of, but that already exists in the real world. And when I say split the difference, I don't mean pick a side and flip a coin. I mean literally split the 1 hour gap in half. Instead of springing forward a full hour or falling back a full hour, you do it once, just a half-hour shift. Set a new permanent time and you're done forever. The daylight savings lovers get to keep some of that extra evening light. The sleep scientists and standard time advocates lose half the battle instead of all of it. The businesses that lobbied for longer evenings still get something, and the rest of us only have to change our clocks by 30 minutes and can finally be done with this thing forever. If this sounds crazy, it is not. In fact, nearly a fifth of the world's population already lives on a half-hour time zone and has for decades. India, for instance, sits right in the middle of a huge landmass. If it picked either UTC plus 5 or UTC plus 6, one half of the country would always be out of sync. So they split the difference with UTC plus 5 hours and 30 minutes. It's not just math, it's practical living. India, Iran, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Central Australia, all running on half-hour offsets. And right here in North America, Canada's Newfoundland uses a half-hour offset. It's not the whole country, but it is official for that province. This isn't radical. This isn't untested. Countries and regions with over 1 billion people do it every single day. And here's the thing. There's actually a bill already introduced in Congress to do exactly this. H.R. 7378, introduced in the House in February 2026, shifts all U.S. time zones ahead by 30 minutes permanently. No more spring forward or fall back. Eastern time becomes UTC minus 4 hours all year round. It's sitting in committee right now. No hearing has been scheduled as usual. Now, will half-hour time zones cause confusion? Sure, a little bit, about 5 minutes. But you know what causes confusion twice a year, every year, with documented billion-dollar economic losses and measurable spikes in heart attacks and car crashes? The current system. Is it slightly weird to say 8:30 a.m. instead of 8? Yeah. Is it weirder than a system that literally kills people through sleep deprivation on a predictable schedule? I'll let you decide. Here's the bottom line. Daylight saving time was invented to save candle wax in wartime. It doesn't save energy anymore. It increases energy use. It costs the country an estimated $672 million a year in heart attacks, strokes, workplace injuries, and fatal car crashes alone. Broader estimates push the total productivity and healthcare drag to over $1 billion annually. And the American public, across every age, income, and political group, is increasingly done with it. Only 35% of Americans want to keep resetting the clocks every fall and spring. 35% of the people in the country are running the entire country. That is the tail wagging the dog, and the dog is exhausted. The half-hour compromise won't satisfy everyone perfectly. Nothing ever does. But it's a real middle ground that's already in use across 1 billion people worldwide. It gets Congress out of an impossible either-or standoff, and it means we change the clocks exactly one more time in American history, and then never, ever again. One last 30-minute inconvenience in exchange for never having to change a clock, lose sleep, or read another reminder email for the rest of your life. I will take that trade. Will you take that trade with me?